Respiration, breathing. What do we add on? What do we put in the atmosphere through respiration, breathing as well? Done. Atmosphere. Redundant supply remaining. Done. Things done. Let's release children. So yes, water vapor is done. Now let's see what we can release more the next topic. CSR done. Giant star done. This is done. Star portion is done. Giant star live much longer than the dwarf star. So giant star, red giant star, and dwarf star. Okay, something has to be correct. Compared to dwarf star, giant stars have a greater rate of course, greater rate of nuclear, of course. This is right. But giant stars live much longer than the dwarf star, at least more. All giants are bigger compared to dwarf star. Hi, hello. Compared to dwarf star, giant star are bigger. All giants are bigger than dwarf star, but it's of course in the cycle of the stars, and life cycle of the star. The question paper, and there's a question paper. Yes. So I'm doing masters in law and also preparing for other examination. Can this be wrong? Okay, choice. So right now 2 questions. Feeling is the conditions in the first as what a web of course. System. Different types of climatic conditions. I'm going to do that list right now. Coriolis force. Can I do that? Because everything is in the wind velocity. Maximum in the poles and absent at the equator. Next will be on Coriolis force. Different types of weather atmospheric conditions. Okay. Tropical. So in physics, Coriolis force is a fictitious force that acts on objects in motion within a frame of reference that rotates with respect to the inertial frame. The talks about Coriolis. Okay. It acts on object in motion with a frame of reference that rotates with respect to the inertial frame. In a reference frame with clockwise rotation, the force acts to the left of the motion of the object. Okay. When a reference frame with clockwise rotation, the force acts to the left of the motion of the object. In one with anti-clockwise or the counterclockwise rotation, the force acts on to the right. Okay, so clockwise, the force acts to the left, and anti-clockwise, of course, the force acts to the right. Easy to remember. Deflection of an object is I was right. Deflection of an object is due to Coriolis force is called Coriolis effect is deflection of the wind. It leads to formation of westerlies and westerlies. In reality, the wind is moving upwards and the downwards, but due to Coriolis force, it deviates westward or the eastward. Deflection of an object due to Coriolis force is called Coriolis effect. Thus, though recognized previously, the mathematical expression for the Coriolis force happened okay. In connection with the theory of water wheels. In early 20th century, the term Coriolis force began. So deflection of an object is due to Coriolis force Coriolis effect. Though organized previously, there is a mathematical expression for the Coriolis force apparent in connection with the theory of water wheels. Early in the 20th century, the term Coriolis force began to be used in connection with meteorology. Newton's law of motion describes the motion of an object in an inertial, non-accelerating frame of the reference. When Newton's laws are transformed to a rotating frame of reference, the Coriolis and the centrifugal accelerations appear. When applied to objects with masses, the respective forces are proportional to their masses. The magnitude of the Coriolis force is proportional to the rotation rate, and the magnitude of the centrifugal force is proportional to the square of the rotation rate. Force acts in direction perpendicular. Yes, of course, it's apparently acts in direction perpendicular to the angular velocity of the rotating frame relative to the inertial frame, and the velocity of the body relative to the rotating frame and its magnitude. The centrifugal force acts outwards in the radial direction. This is not important. Okay. In popular non-technical Coriolis effect, the rotating reference frame implied is almost always the Earth, because the Earth spins. Outbound observers need to account for the Coriolis force to correctly analyze the motion of the objects. The Earth completes one rotation for each sidereal. So for motions of everyday object, the Coriolis force is imperceptible. Its effects becomes noticeable only for motions occurring over large distances and long periods of time, such as large scale movement of air in the atmosphere or water in the ocean. Right. So ocean current and the atmospheric weight both are impacted by the Coriolis force. and complete concentration for is hydral there. So for motions of every object, the Willis force intensity these effects become noticeable only for motions occurring over large distances and long periods of time, such as the large-scale movement of the air in the atmosphere or water in the ocean, or where high precision is important, such as artillery or missile trajectories. Such motions are constrained by the surface of the earth. So only the horizontal component of the Coriolis force is generally important. The force causes moving objects on the surface of the earth to be deflected to the right with respect to direction of the travel in the northern. So in the northern hemisphere, the Coriolis force will deflecting the objects to the right. Moving object on the surface of the earth to be deflected to the right. So in the right anti-clockwise movement of force, left clockwise movement of forces are allowed. Clockwise. Causes moving objects on the surface of that to be deflected to the right. To the right, of course. In northern hemisphere. And to the left. Southern hemisphere. The horizontal reflection effect is greater than near the poles, since the effective rotation rate about local vertical axis is larger, and they decreases to zero at the equator. So right in the horizontal reflection effect is the horizontal deflection effect is greater than the effective rotation rate. About the local vertical axis. Is largest there. And decreases to zero at the equator. The horizontal deflection effect is greater near the poles, since effective rotation rate about local vertical axis is largest here and degrees of zero the equator, rather than flowing directly from the areas of high pressure to low pressure. Yes, as during a non-rotating system, of course. So rather than the winds, if the Earth was non-rotating object, then the wind would have simply flown from high pressure to low pressure area. But it's a rotating objects, and that's why cordless force is applied, and this leads to deflection of the winds, as well as the oceanic currents, leading to the formation of the easterlies and the westerlies. Flowing directly from the azure winds and the currents tend to flow to the right of this direction, not the equator, clockwise into the. Okay, let me write some points. Equator clockwise. To the right of this direction, north, and to the left of this direction, south of it, anti-clockwise. The effect is responsible for the rotation and thus the formation of the cyclones, of course. History I don't require. It causes a cannon fire to the north of to deflect to the east. Describe the effect as part of the argument against the heliocentric system of Copernicus. In other words, they argue the Earth's rotation should create this effect, and so failure to detect the effect was evidence for an immobile Earth. The code is acceleration equation was removed. The effect was described in the tidal equations of them. In Newtonian mechanics, the equation of motion for an object is an inertial reference of frame, is where is the vector sum of the physical forces active on the object. Is the mass of the object and is the acceleration of the object relative to the inertia. Transforming this equation to a reference frame rotating about a fixed axis to the origin with angular velocity, variable rotation rate, the equation takes a form. Cordless force, the force and centrifugal force depends on the cordless force depends on the object's velocity upon the position vector of the object, while the cordless force depends upon the object's velocity as measured in the rotating room. As expected for non-rotating inertial frame of reference, the cordless force and all other fictitious forces disappear. The velocity parallel to rotation axis Okay. Rotation axis, the Wallace force is 0. So if the value is anything like weight of, for example, or the situation occurs for a body at the equator moving north or south, yes. On the situation of the okay, the situation occurs in equator. So it is parallel to the rotation axis. Occurs for a body at the equator moving north or south, the relative to our surface. Such an electron in the equator, however, the north and south motion would have a component perpendicular to the rotation axis and a force specified within okay, the velocity is straight and move the direction of the local rotation. This would occur for a body at the equator falling downward. The motion in the direction of the rotation of it goes outward from the surface for a body at the equator moving eastward to the surface. So it is against the direction of the which would deflect downwards. So intuitive explanation. Application or not. Deceleration affecting again to be background knowledge. Deceleration regardless force ये वाला different types of climatic zone है तो मेरा main रहेगा and if you get time ये वाला grains. Was this statement? See about the statement. Absorbers of long wave radiation. Yes. Water vapor as well.